Mastering the A320 flight control laws is more than a technical requirement. It is the foundation of safely operating this aircraft. Today, we will break down the system logic, the operational impacts of degradation, and the specific protections you must rely on during your next check ride. At its core, the fly-by-wire philosophy is defined by the relationship between side stick input and the aircraft's response. When you deflect the stick, you aren't moving a surface directly, you are issuing an order. In normal law, the flight control computers actively interpret that order, executing it while simultaneously preventing any maneuver that would exceed the safe flight envelope. It is vital to distinguish between a limitation and a protection. A limitation is a passive structural boundary, the hard wall you must never cross to avoid airframe damage. Protection, however, is an active system. Whether it's high-speed protection or alpha limit, these safety nets intervene to keep you safe, granting you the authority to obtain maximum performance instinctively without ever overstressing the aircraft. Success in a degraded state depends on one golden rule: understand the FMA at all times. The transition from these green equal signs to an amber X is your ultimate visual trigger. It signifies that your active protections are lost. You must immediately internalize this shift in the aircraft's defensive posture. When we look at the control law matrix, notice the shift in pilot flying responsibilities. While alternate law maintains the same pitch load factor as normal law, your role becomes direct. Most importantly, in alternate law, you have no active protections, only warnings. The aircraft now relies entirely on you to prevent a loss of control, just like a conventional non-protected aircraft. Triggered by dual computer or sensor failures, alternate law requires an immediate operational shift. First, descend. You need to drop approximately 4,000 feet below your recommended maximum altitude to increase your buffet margin and reduce stall warnings in turbulence. Second, maneuver with care. While pitch characteristics feel familiar, remember the safety nets are gone. When configuring for an approach in alternate law, plan for flaps 3 and set the GPWS landing flap 3 switch to on. You must also manually add an increment to your VREF, typically 10 to 25 knots, depending on the failure. Most critically, anticipate the reversion. Extending the landing gear will instantly trigger the transition to direct law. Direct law is the ultimate degradation. The most significant change here is that auto trim is dead. Because there is now a direct stick-to-elevator relationship, you must actively and continuously use the manual pitch trim wheel for the remainder of the approach and landing. You are now flying the cables. Beware of the yaw damper fake-out. If you lose both FACS or the yaw damper, the ECAM will display alternate law. Pilots often brace for a transition to direct law upon gear extension, but this is a trap. In this specific failure, pitch and roll remain in normal law. The aircraft will not revert to direct law when the gear drops, and your flare mode remains available. Do not manually trim. In direct law, executing a go-around presents a unique challenge. Since auto trim is dead, applying toga thrust creates a massive pitch-up moment due to the underslung engines. If you are passive, you will hit a transient stall warning. You must anticipate this rotation by applying aggressive nose-down elevator and rolling the manual trim wheel forward simultaneously. Similarly, watch for the speed brake balloon. If you are trimmed for speed brakes extended in direct law, a rapid retraction will cause a severe nose-down trim change. Without auto trim, the aircraft will plunge. Retract the speed brakes gently and gradually to give yourself time to manually retrim as the aerodynamics shift. In scenarios where manual pitch trim is completely inoperative, you must delay the transition to direct law as long as possible. By delaying gear extension until you are in flaps 3 and established at approach speed, you maximize your time in alternate law. This retains the crucial auto trim function until the last possible safe moment. A dual radio altimeter failure is not just a navigation fault, it is a system-wide cascade. The computers lose the data they need for flare logic. Selecting gear down will instantly trigger direct law if the autopilot is off. Furthermore, you lose all automated altitude callouts and the retard prompt. terrain awareness becomes your top priority. When things go wrong, remember golden rule number 1, fly. Do not rush to clear the ECAM during an upset or overspeed in degraded laws. Disconnect the automation, stabilize the pitch and thrust manually, and fly the aircraft back to the center of the safe envelope first. Analysis comes later. To summarize our briefing, know your envelope and the difference between protections and limitations. Trust the FMA. When the green equals signs vanish, your safety nets are gone. Anticipate the gear-driven reversion to direct law and manage the resulting pitch changes aggressively. Above all, in an upset, ignore the ECAM until the flight path is manually secured. Fly the airplane.